Does fat make you fat? Nope. Let's talk about it right here on the Carnivore Science channel. So how do I know that fat does not make you fat? Well, around 2013, I gained almost 100 pounds by that time. And I tried every diet imaginable. First thing I started off with was basically the starvation diet, where, you're eating a piece of celery or drinking a smoothie, high carb stuff, but very low calorie type of thing. I also worked out like a fiend, but it just didn't work. Even though I was working out like crazy, it wasn't very successful. Now I did see weight loss, but most of that was just because I was starving myself and I was consuming my own muscle tissue, which is extremely unhealthy. And it still was not even that successful. And I ran and ran and ran for miles and miles every day. Now, the next thing I tried was a keto diet. A little bit of a dirty keto, mostly. Here and there, I'd go back and forth from whole foods to dirty keto. But that also required me to work out quite a bit, because dirty keto ends up being a lot more carbs than you actually think you're getting. Because that whole net carbs and total carbs thing, that's crap. So that's made up. So that did, now I will say that I did lose a decent chunk of the weight from the keto, but I didn't really do the high fat keto that I should have been doing. So then you go to the carnivore diet, high fat carnivore diet. Now, I lost a big chunk on keto. I had the rest to lose on carnivore, so I had some sort of comparison as to how fast I lost weight on keto versus carnivore. And as you know, when you first start losing weight, when I did the keto, which was earlier, I had a lot more weight to lose. It is easier to lose weight when you have more weight on you, like when you first start. Later, when you have less weight, it's slower. It slows down. But when I had the least amount of weight to lose on the carnivore, the third option I tried, that weight went off really fast, and I was doing a very high fat version of carnivore. It was crazy. It even shocked me. So I know from personal experience that it works, that eating a very high fat carnivore diet works, and it works very well. Now, the second thing I'll say is that for both keto and the low calorie diet that I was talking about, I had to work my ass off. I had to run 3 miles every day like a crazy person in order to make both of those work. Now, the first one, the low calorie one, I had to do a lot more of that than I'd had to do when I actually started cutting carbs and I did the keto one. So the keto is way more effective. But carnivore, I deliberately did not work out. Now, don't get me wrong. Exercise is extremely important. Moving is very important. Especially as you get older, you need to make sure you maintain flexibility. The difference that I'm talking about here is that when you are trying to lose weight, working out is approached like some kind of a burden and turmoil, and it's a lot of... you're having to force yourself to do it, and you're pushing, and it's excessive, because the more you work out, the more you feel like you're going to lose. But the thing about carnivore is that it does not require working out, but it does inspire working out. So that is the great thing, is that you end up with all of this energy because you're eating such nutrient dense food. You start incorporating the high fat, you get rid of the carbs, and you end up wanting to actually work out. But it's not the same way that you did before, when it's like, okay, I got to do my 3 miles now every day. So what is the mechanism behind losing weight by eating fat? Well, it's something called fat adaptation. Fat adaptation is the process by which your body learns to burn fat for fuel. Sounds pretty simple, right? Well, it is. If you stop eating carbohydrates, your body has to turn to an alternate fuel source, which is actually, in my assessment, the preferred fuel source, which is ketones. So it's going to burn the fat you have on your body, and it's going to create, well, ketones are created as part of the process. There is a large process that's involved in this, but to make it simple, you're basically burning your lunch that you already have packed, which is your excess body fat. Ketone bodies, when you actually start generating ketone, you start burning ketones, what you'll find is there's quite a few benefits. Number one, fat loss, obviously. You'll start to lose the fat that you're actually burning for fuel. Number two, craving control. You will not be hungry like you used to be. You're not going to have the swings, because if you remember eating big carby breakfast, about 2 hours later, you're starving to death. And then it's back and forth and back and forth. That goes away. Also, you need less food. Like, I eat once a day. I burn ketones all the time. So I am like only going to eat once a day. I really only want to eat once a day, typically. So you also have very steady energy. I don't ever run out of energy, and there's a lot more benefits than what I'm saying here. But one of the biggest things that people actually comment on is mental performance, clarity, focus. It is super, super intensified. I describe it as feeling like a superhero. So all of this goes together. It's not just the weight loss, but it's all the other benefits that come from your body learning how to use fat for fuel. So we've discussed how important it is for your body to adapt to burning fat for fuel. But no obesity conversation is complete without discussing what's called insulin resistance. Now, insulin resistance is where insulin, the hormone that is released by the pancreas, that has a job of shuttling blood sugars into the cell. It moves glucose into the cells. This is where it doesn't work correctly. It can't open the cells up. It can't get the sugars in there properly. So you have very high insulin levels trying to get a certain amount of glucose shuttled into the cell. This is what causes a lot of problems, not just obesity. It causes a myriad of things. Insulin resistance also is referred to as pre-diabetes in many cases. A lot of things like Alzheimer's, dementia, they're calling type 3 diabetes. It's related to high insulin levels. Because if you think about it, if you're marinating yourself in carbs all the time, your insulin's shooting through the roof like regularly. And it's going to be toxic to you. So in the fat adapted model, where you are burning fat and you're making ketones, you do not have all of these extremely high insulin levels. This is not a phenomenon that you see. That is something you see with increased carbohydrates. And yes, you store body fat when you're running very high insulin levels and you're eating sugars and starches and a high carbohydrate diet. You're going to be storing fat. You do not store tons of fat when you eat fat. That is not how this works. I want to add one note to this, is that when I use the word fat, I'm talking about animal fats, not seed oils or oils. Seed oils like soybean oil and canola oil, things like that, are industrial lubricant type products. They are not something that anyone should ever put into their mouth. Vegetable oil is nasty and toxic. So I am talking about fat, meaning animal fat. Just wanted to be clear about that. So to recap, the reason I did this video is because I had a conversation with someone at work, and they mentioned when I was talking about fat consumption. Oh, aren't you worried about getting fat? And I was kind of shocked that someone still believes that. So it made me realize that a lot of people probably do. It's crazy to think that all the brainwashing of the 90s is still sticking around, but evidently it is. And I can understand that, because when I first started, a lot of these diets are high fat keto, and then later high fat carnivore. It took a lot to get me to consume fat and understand that my body needed it. So I figured I would just share this to try to dispel any of these myths. But if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. And if you like the video, please give me a like. And if you want to, subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.